Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got a really interesting head-to-head between two chokes that I'm definitely excited to test and see what they can give us. Both of them are a little bit of an old school combo. They're both very similar, but they have a couple differences about them that could actually make a difference in our pattern. And we're going to be testing them through the modern version of the shell that they were kind of known to be really good with, at least 15 years ago or so. So in theory, I think we should see some surprisingly decent performances here today. But first up, for the shells that I've got today, I brought out some more of the Winchester Double X turkey loads. These ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, 1 3/4 ounce payload of lead 5s at about 1300 feet per second. If you don't know, the Double X lineup is what kind of replaced the old Winchester Supreme shells. Model number wise and stats wise, they are the same loading. I don't really think they changed much, if anything at all, going to the Double X loads, and that's what's really going to be interesting today. These are a modern shell. I got these, I don't know, 6-8 months ago or so, this particular box anyway. But the two chokes that we've got today were always known to be pretty nice patterning options with the old Winchester Supreme loads. So will it translate to the Double X or not? I think there's a good chance at it if nothing major has changed, but we'll see what happens. For the setup that we're running today, I brought out the Remington 870 Special Purpose. This one's got a 26-inch barrel on it, but for our two chokes, we've got these two. These are both Remington chokes. They may or may not have come in guns brand new from the factory, but both of these are easily probably 15 to 20 years old, I would imagine. Both of these are Remington Turkey Super Full chokes. We've got the regular Super Full here, and this is the Super Full straight rifled. The regular one is a completely smooth constriction down inside of there, but the straight rifled one has straight rifling grooves inside of it, and it is a little bit longer than the standard one is as well. Both of these measure out at 665 for a constriction, so very typical numbers wise. But will the straight rifling or the little bit longer choke actually make a difference in our pattern or not? These are essentially the same choke, but with slight alterations, so we'll see how they do when we put them head to head. But for today's test, we're running everything the same as usual. I've got two turkey targets set up side by side at 40 yards and the chrono to get our velocity. So let's get you guys a view of those targets, take both of our shots, and we'll see just how big of a difference there might actually be between these two Turkey Super Fulls. I don't know that there's going to be much, but who knows, that straight rifling could make a massive difference, giving us a better pattern or a worse pattern. We don't know yet, but let's try them out and see what kind of results we can actually get. Alright, so we'll take a quick look at our velocities. We have a boss claim of 1300. However, we were a decent little bit above that, which is nothing too out of the ordinary for these shells to be mid to upper 1300s or so. The regular Super Full gave us 1360, and the straight rifled gave us 1355, so 5 feet per second difference. Nothing major there. I'd say that's about average for them overall. And I've been reminded why I don't like shooting the Double X shells. Out of all the Winchester shells, I think they are the stiffest, most snappiest recoil ones as well. They're not very pleasant to shoot. But did we actually get two good patterns down there from them? And is there one that's better than the other? Let's go check it out and see. Okay, so here we are down at our 40-yard papers, and we see some very similar results, but I think there might be one that is just a little bit better than the other. But overall, they're pretty close, I would say. On the left, we have our regular Super Full, and on the right, we have our straight rifled Super Full. We have two dead turkeys for sure, but I think the regular Super Full might have won it out just by a little bit here today. And first, we will take a look at that regular Super Full. Obviously, yes, we do indeed have a dead bird at 40. There's one through the bottom of the brain and several more down through the spine that would have done the job. Although it's definitely, you know, not Longbeard XR type of territory. That's about the standard average, I would say, for a Double X load. In my opinion, obviously I think we all know the Longbeard shells are the best of the trio from Winchester, but I think the Super X shells are a little better than these Double X ones are as well. And you don't have to deal with quite as much recoil or cost with those either. But either way, this is a decent pattern, all things considered, for what it is. Pretty basic lead load, moving at quite a decent velocity as well through a much older school choke. Definitely nothing fancy about it whatsoever. It's just a little more broad of a spread, but still definitely 40-yard capable. But I also don't know if this is quite as good as what the old Supremes did through these chokes either. We've tested some of those old Supremes, but I wish I still had some left to actually put them head to head here with the Double X. But either way, we have a little bit of tightening in the core there, right around that bird's neck, and the farther we get to the edges, the more splotchy areas that we pick up. But it is definitely starting to condense itself down there, although nothing overly special to write home about necessarily. But now we move over here with our straight rifled super full. These two chokes are the same constriction, but this straight rifled one has straight rifling and it is a little bit longer. And I don't think it gave us quite as condensed area of shot either. We still have a dead bird. There's one through the brain and a couple more down the spine, but I don't think we quite have that hot zone right there around our core either. It's decent enough to do the job to 40, but I don't know that I would push it a ton farther past there. And the farther we get to the edge, the more of the same we see, except with this one, we may have a little bit more as far as pellets go scattered around the edges a little bit. Overall, I think that pattern with the straight rifled one here is a little bit more open. So overall, these are two decent patterns for what it is. They're old school chokes with a shell that's pretty basic. They're decent patterning shells that will certainly do the job, but we've definitely probably seen a little better than what these two chokes gave us with these shells as well. But I really think that regular super full over there on the left is probably going to win it out numbers wise. So let's pull these two targets down, get them out of our way. I'll finish drawing circles and counting pellets, and we'll see exactly what the number difference is here between these two shots. Okay, so now we've got our targets out of our way, everything is circled and counted, and it's pretty much exactly what I was thinking we would see earlier. They are very close numbers wise, but there is a winner, just by a little bit anyway. But again, first up, we'll start here with our regular super full. We have a 10 and a 20-inch circle drawn here, and every pellet has been counted and circled. Inside of our core 10-inch circle, we have 76 total pellets. Decently even spread there, although it's definitely not overly tight necessarily. Outside of that, with our 20-inch leeway ring, we have an additional 122 pellets. Pretty even spread. Might have a little thin spot at the bottom left down there, but not too bad overall. And obviously we have our fair share of stuff scattered around the edges outside of our 20-inch ring as well. No surprise there. Overall, looking at this as a whole, you got to think for a pretty decently basic Winchester Double X load and a choke that is easily 15 years old, if not a little older, that's a perfectly adequate hunting pattern for this combo. If you had that kind of pattern in 2009 or something, then you would be killing turkeys with it, no question about it. And still today, it's a basic combo, but a turkey is not going to make it through that pattern, although it's definitely nowhere near what like Longbeard XR would be. But now moving over to our straight rifled super full, we can see a pretty similar pattern, but yes indeed it is a little bit more of an open spread. Within our 10-inch core, we have 68 pellets compared to 76 with our regular super full. So we lost 8 pellets there, not a massive amount, but with a pattern that has a little more broad spread, it is a little bit noticeable. And outside of that, with our 20-inch leeway ring, we have 111 additional pellets compared to 122 with the regular. So we lost 11 pellets there as well. And I would say overall, those 20-ish pellets or so are definitely what is outside of our center core area or 20-inch ring here. Definitely a little more open, a little more scattered, not quite as condensed down of a pattern overall. Still perfectly capable to 40 yards for a turkey hunt. They're not going to make it through that pattern, but I do think the regular super full condensed it down a little bit more. So overall, looking at the two side by side again, I think that regular super full over there on the left is our winner for today. Now these numbers are close enough to where if we took multiple shots with each choke, they may produce very similar patterns or maybe bounce back and forth between which one is statistically better. But I like the looks of that regular super full pattern over there on the left a little bit better. It's a little more even, a little more consolidated, and a little less blotchy the farther you get to the edges compared to the straight rifled over there on the right. Now, was that caused by just the straight rifling in the choke? Was it caused by kind of the constriction profile inside of the choke? The straight rifled is longer, and obviously it has straight rifling, so maybe the profile of how quickly it constricts is a little different in these two chokes. It could be a number of factors here. Both are very similar, as we suspected. They're both the same constriction, the same brand, and essentially the same choke for the most part anyway. But at least here with this test and these double X shells, I think our winner is that regular super full over there on the left. But very interesting to see the difference here and to see just how close these two actually are. And here are the two wads from those shells. Very typical Winchester equipment here. Overall, they look very similar. On the left, we have a regular super full, and on the right, we have our straight rifled super full. On this one on the right, you can just see those vertical lines there faintly in the plastic from the straight rifling that choke has. It's not a super aggressive straight rifling. There are definitely chokes out there that are more aggressive than that, but it is there, and it technically would make a difference. Yeah, you can really kind of see them there with those darker black vertical lines. Overall though, nothing majorly different between them. Maybe on the straight rifled, we might have had a little tiny snag up here on the tip of two of these pedals. Maybe that made the difference just enough to kind of throw 15 pellets or so out a little farther. I don't know that it made a massive difference because of how similar these look and performed, but overall, neither one really strikes me as having any issues here, so nothing I'm worried about. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about these two results right here? It's definitely rather interesting to see just how similar of a performance we can get from these two. They are very similar chokes overall, but I definitely think, or at least numbers wise anyway, that regular super full over here definitely gave us a touch better pattern. It's a little more condensed, a little more consolidated, maybe a little bit more even throughout the entire thing than what we got with this straight rifled one. Mathematically wise, very similar as far as numbers go. Nothing major, nothing that a turkey is going to know the difference between necessarily, but I just prefer how this regular super full performed a little bit better than what the straight rifled gave us. Obviously, if this is what I had, I wouldn't hesitate to run either combo. I don't know that I would push either one of these combinations much past 40 yards, but 40 yards and in, they're perfectly capable. So now maybe we ought to run this with some Super X shells in these two, maybe some Longbeard XR shells between the two. Maybe we'll see a little bit bigger difference in those tests with those shells. I really don't know. Either way though, for this technically being the first time I've ever shot this particular super full over here, it did perfectly fine for us. I've been trying to collect all the old Remington chokes. That was one I didn't have yet, so I had to pick that one up. And overall, pick your poison really between these two. Whichever one you prefer is going to do the same job as the other one will. But leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Do you have, or have you ever run, or have you ever tested any of these old Remington super full turkey chokes? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Are either one of these combos or patterns a setup that you would actually hunt with? And if so, which one would you prefer? Or would you take either one? And maybe what other shells do you want to see us run through these two chokes? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.